Alrighty, folks. Today I'm going to be talking about something personal: childhood dysphoria. Now, I know I've talked about dysphoria in the past, but those were more like generalized videos. This is going to be some experiences that, in hindsight, were definitely me experiencing dysphoria and just not having a vocabulary for what I was feeling. So, perhaps unsurprisingly, I was bullied a lot as a kid. And for some reason, I attributed my bullying to being a girl. So some days I would just wish I could wake up and be a boy. But I didn't really want to be a boy. I just wanted to not be a girl anymore. But of course, it was the 90s. Non binary was not a thing. I mean, it probably was, but it wasn't like mainstream like it is now. But I would just get so sad that I had to be a girl, and I wished I could just not be a girl or a boy. And I never told my parents because I figured they wouldn't get it. And I'm pretty sure, looking back on it, if I told them at that age, we're talking like 6 or 7 years old, that I didn't want to be a girl or a boy, they probably would have thought I was confused or not taking it very seriously. Heck, if I'd had the word non binary and even was able to explain that to them, I'm sure they'd brush it off as like a phase and would just wait it out or try to reinforce, no, you are a girl. Even if you don't want to be a girl, you're a girl. Another instance, I was about 12 or 13. Now, this was probably, I guess you could say this was my first foray into drag, and only foray into drag. I wanted to be a boy for Halloween. And I was just so excited at the prospect that people are going to see me and not see a girl. They would think I was a boy. So I bundled all my hair up under a hat. I wore a big oversized jersey over an oversized t-shirt, and I wore a pair of jeans and a pair of tennis shoes, and I didn't have any bracelets or rings or anything on. And I was convinced I looked like a boy, and people are gonna see me and think I'm a boy, and it'll be great. That didn't happen. Not a single house I went to fell for it, and I remember just being so disheartened that it didn't work, that people still knew I was a girl, and my whole attempt at looking like not a girl was for nothing. I was heartbroken, y'all. I was so heartbroken that no one thought I was a boy. Not a single person. And I mean, I could see why, because even at 12 years old, I had C cups. And of course, I didn't know anything about binding. So, of course, no one thought I was a boy. Now these sacks of flour on my chest, and my high voice, and my round face and big doe eyes. I just, I was just so hopeful people are gonna look at me and they're not gonna think I'm a girl. Even talking about it now, it still kind of breaks my heart a little. Not that it didn't work, but just remembering how I felt and how upset I was that it didn't work. And I remember sitting in church at, I don't know, 10, 11. This was a couple decades ago. My memory's not great. And I was in my, and I was in, well, it was at the age where I was allowed to draw and not pay attention to the pastor because I was too young to understand what he was talking about. So maybe younger than 11. However old I was. I was drawing stuff like ninjas and Michael Myers, Yeah, I don't know why anyone let me watch horror movies at that age. But I was just considering, I was just drawing what I considered not girl things because I wanted to assert that I'm not a girl, or at least I don't want to be a girl. And I remember my mom leaning over and like, why don't you draw something nicer? And I in my head, blah, stupid stutter. In my little kid head, to me, that was her saying, I want you to be more like a girl. I want you to do something girly. And I just started silently crying. I don't know, I'm pretty sure my mom didn't notice or she would have said something. But I was just crying because I felt like I was being forced to be a girl and do girl things even though I didn't want to. And I was just having this crisis in the middle of the sermon. Like, why do I have to be a girl? Why can't I be something else? Why do I have to be a boy if I don't want to be a girl? Why do I have to be either one? I like girl stuff and I like boy stuff. Why can't I be both? Why do I have to be just a girl? Oh, young me. And I was always pretty gender nonconforming growing up. Like, I would always try to hang out with boys because I felt like I didn't have anything in common with the girls. And that didn't go well because I didn't have anything in common with the boys either. I was shy, I was unathletic, I didn't know anything about cars or video games. I I definitely wasn't interested in girls. So it's like I was an outcast basically. I didn't have anything in common with either one of I didn't have anything in common with boys, at least not enough in common with them that they wanted to hang out with me. And I didn't feel like I had anything in common with girls. But the girls were willing to accept me regardless, and the boys not so much. So I had mostly female friends growing up, and I hated wearing girly clothes. I mean, well, not hated. There were some girly clothes I did like, but I was strictly a jeans and t-shirt and tennis shoes kind of person. Except for that phase in third grade where all I would wear was stretch pants. But for the most part, it's like no dresses, no skirts. In fact, the only way I would wear a skirt is if they were skirts. That way it's not a real skirt. Because skirts are for girls. Ugh. I wish I had known the words non-binary a lot sooner. Or even if I didn't know the words, if there was just a character in a cartoon I liked that said, hey, I'm not a boy or a girl, that probably would have resonated with me a lot, and it wouldn't have taken until my mid was it my mid 20s when my egg cracked, or was it my late 20s? Yeah, I think it was my late 20s, like 28, 29, before my egg cracked. And if I had just seen someone who felt like I felt, and maybe had words for it, it would have saved me a lot of stress. I would have known I don't have to be a boy, I don't have to be a girl. There's options. And it makes me think of all the other trans and non binary kids out there who feel that same isolation of, I'm not who everyone says I am. Or it's so isolating, just feeling like you don't belong in your body. You don't belong in the roles everyone has assigned you because of your assigned gender at birth. It's stressful and it's so lonely. Honestly, kids now, I'm so happy that there's LGBT content in children's cartoons now. Because now, little gay and bi kids see people that are like them and know there's nothing wrong with them. Trans and non binary kids see characters like them and they know there's nothing wrong with them either. This is what they are. This is what that means. This is what these feelings are. I wish I had that in the 90s and the 2000s. I wonder if they even know how lucky they are that they have that. I hope they do. But let's see. Those were the three main incidents I could think of where I was just like super dysphoric. And let's see, are there any more Ah, right. Without knowing it, I had a Dysphoria hoodie. Yeah, like any chance I got, as long as it was, weather permitting. I live in the hot part of Arizona, like right in Phoenix. So weather permitting, which wasn't very often throughout the year because hottest part of Arizona, I would always wear hoodies, and not just regular hoodies, but hoodies at least two sizes too big for me. My excuse was, well, it's so comfortable and cozy. But the other thing I wasn't fully aware of, it also hid my curves. I was double D's by the time I was a freshman, so it didn't hide that much, but it hid enough that I was comfortable just being seen, being in my body. Because no one could really see the boobs and the hips. I could hide in plain sight. Of course, to the point where when I didn't have my hoodie and everyone could see my body, I was uncomfortable. And it never really dawned on me why I feel so uncomfortable with people perceiving me. Until, again, my egg cracked in my late 20s, and now I'm looking back on all this shit like, oh god, I was hella dysphoric. How did no one notice I was under so much stress? I know it was because I never told anyone shit about me, because I was convinced I'm useless and I'm not worth worrying about. Something I would tackle in therapy a few decades later. But, anyways, I'm getting away from the original point of this. So, even as a kid, with, like, it just goes to show gender is innate. I was raised in the 90s and the 2000s. No one talked about trans people. They barely talked about gay and bi people. No one talked about trans people. I didn't know any trans people that I'm aware of. I didn't know anyone non-binary, again, that I was aware of. I'd never even heard the terms until I was a teenager. But I still had all these feelings of not belonging in my assigned gender. And I wasn't influenced by anything or anybody. It was just an innate feeling that something was off. So anyone out there who says kids are only being trans because they're being influenced by other people, no, they're not. Because I wasn't influenced by anyone all growing up to be non-binary, and I still was anyway. So, what you gonna do? Anyways, I can't think of any other dysphoria moments from my childhood. So, well, aside from all the times I would shun girly things because, well, I was determined to not be seen as a girl. I couldn't tell you why if you asked me, but everyone just wrote me off as, yep, she's a tomboy. And that was that. No one thought there was anything deeper to it. I certainly didn't know. So, I'm out of things to say. Have a good whatever time of day you're watching this.